This episode is sponsored by Squarespace.
Welcome back, folks. This is part 5 of making a little model steam power hammer from a rough kit of castings. I'm loving this project. The steam power hammer is the predecessor to this type of power hammer. That's what we need to get to today. One of these, but just like 100 times smaller. You remember the little drama in the last episode? I wanted to make part 44, this gland, but I couldn't fit the part in the 3-jaw chuck. Our 4-jaw chuck didn't fit. Well, I took to eBay and we went and ordered ourselves a chuck, and he is arriving on Monday.
Right, so you're saying that we're not making this piece now?
Yep, so we're not making this, we're making that beautiful ram.
But I coloured this in. So
Too late, Jamie.
How are we going to extract the colour off here? Because it's going to confuse the viewers.
Oh, it will confuse everybody.
Well, don't make that much of a mess of it. Look at it.
That is perfection, Jamie.
Oh my
God,
God.
I have shaky hands. Where's the bit of metal? This is what they want us to make it from, that block of mild steel. And would you believe it, Jamie? That requires a 4-jaw chuck.
Does it actually?
Yeah, it requires a 4-jaw chuck.
Well, you bloody coloured that in now.
It's too late.
Right, anvil.
Welcome back to part 5 of making a mini steam hammer. Today, we are going to be making the anvil. It's just that ours is going to be itty bitty. Because this steam hammer is a 2-piece construction, the anvil is actually separate from the body of the hammer itself. Just like on this big old German Bernsdorfer. That is so you could have an enormous anvil that was buried deep into the ground to have as much mass underneath your ram as possible. The way they want us to do this on this model is by having the anvil slot through this hole on the base. As you can see, it doesn't fit. And so we've got to do some cleaning up, squaring up, get some holes drilled, then it's on to a very special part that I want to add to this model that the drawings didn't call for. Well, I said I had something special in store. We might be getting to it sooner than expected, because have a look at this. I want to make a nice surface here at the top, which requires me to clamp it, but it is just too tall to get a good grip on it. I'm sure there are workarounds to it, but we all know I love a little brute force.
What have you done?
Well, I've cut it off. Look at this. The casting has the faint outline of a dovetail on it. I don't just want a faint outline, I want a real dovetail. How much better would that be if we had an actual dovetailed die, where it goes anvil, dovetail, key, die. Ignore the fact that this is a sow block and the actual die is up here. I want it authentic. And I also want to pull my hair out while I try and make itty-bitty dovetails and die keys, because apparently I'm a masochist and I have created a career out of doing things that confuse me. That is for later. For now, it's small enough to put in the vise, machine flat surface, true up the sides so the casting is central, get holes in it, and then flatten off the area that will eventually be covered dovetails. Woo! Right, so I'm really going overboard here. What I've done is I've machined around all 4 sides up top on the die until it all looks nice and neat. Then, using that as our datum, we then measured how far all the 4 sides down at the bottom are, making that central. With those measurements, we're going to be able to get that central rectangle at the top of the anvil centered. And we're going to be doing that by taking 6.5 thousandths of an inch off this side and 19.5 thousandths of an inch off that side. All right, we got our spot faces. And no, that isn't how my face looked as a teenager, but it's that little pocket that's milled down flat around the hole. And next up, we're gonna make like the back end of a bird, the dovetail. Interruption, update about the Quaolina. Look, we're gonna talk about Quaque. That little sweet, adorable pumpkin munchkin competes in the sport of PSA. And as you might know, my little hobby on the side is playing with and training dogs. Now, this past weekend, we hosted a PSA trial, and I used my Squarespace website to be able to take the payments for the trial and keep track of all the competitors that we had. I was able to do that because Squarespace allows me to sell not only physical products, but also digital products as well as services. And this is one of the reasons that I like Squarespace so much. It is so customizable that no matter what I've got going on, I can sort it out in my Squarespace website. And over the weekend, she officially titled to PSA 3 in the sport, which means that she is the first dog in the UK, the second dog outside of North America, and the 38th dog ever to achieve the title, and she did it in a weekend. And so I want to update the website to showcase her achievements, and it's literally going to take 10 seconds. Go time. Edit. Here. Boom. I can't type. Save. Turns out, only took 8 seconds. Please, if you've got a few quiet moments over this holiday period, it's the perfect time to give Squarespace a try. And you can do it with a 2-week free trial at squarespace.com/forge. The link is in the description below. And code FORGE is going to get you 10% off your first purchase. That includes your domain. Let's get back to the video. Now, still on the bird theme, eagle-eyed viewers will remember that we recently had a dovetail to make on this old girlie. That was the Dune dagger from June of this year. But that dovetail was not a dovetail requiring accuracy. That was a dovetail I could make exactly how I wanted and then just shove wood in to fit. But with this project in front of us, there's no time or space for that type of attitude because we need to make everything correct. On that project, we had to make some tooling. We made this little dovetail fly cutter. But there is obviously no way that's going to work because it's enormous. Teeny little dovetail like that ain't gonna happen with it. So we're gonna have to make some more tools. But that's okay, because we do love making tools and we have a fresh supply of high-speed steel tool bits. I think we've got to make something that looks kind of like a hook. Oh, it's new sketchpad day. Here's what I'm thinking. Little shank, gets necked down, little sticky outy bit. I just love being such a talented artist. That's a joke. My drawing is that of a 2-year-old. No, 1-year-old. In order to make the tool, we're going to draw up the dovetail itself, work out what angles we want to use. Then we're going to have to figure it out. I don't think my carbide tooling will cut this in the lathe, but I might give it a shot because that would be quite an efficient and effective way of doing the bulk of the material removal. Now, while I make this tool, I want to talk about something very important. It's about a dispute that's been going on since, according to Google, 1799. It's divided makers around the world, caused for countless near duplicates to be made, and makes for the ultimate discussion in the YouTube comments. And that is metric versus imperial. In my life, I've had a very turbulent relationship with measurement standards. Learning woodwork as a very young child, imperial. Learning blacksmithing in the UK, metric. Taking blacksmithing classes in the United States, imperial. Starting a business in the UK, metric. All the way through to moving to Montana, where for 2 years I was immersed well and truly in the thick, gooey goodness that was the imperial measurement system, where we didn't hear a single utterance of the word millimeter for quite some time before one November day ending up back here in the UK. My imperial Bridgeport and Monarch lathe remained in Montana. And here we have another metric Bridgeport and metric lathe. And now we're making a project that was sold by a British company where all of the plans and materials are imperial, to be made with my metric tools and tooling.
Can I just say that ounces and cups suck?
I agree with you there. Yep. Ounces? Okay. What we didn't talk about was weighing anything. For weighing things, it's kilos all day. And the big question I'm here to answer is, which do I prefer and which do I think is superior? Well, my brain is a little bit weird about this because doing the precise stuff here at the mill, I actually think I prefer inches, especially if we're working with decimal inches instead of fractional inches. Though there is a soft spot in my heart for fractional inches, I feel like I've got an intuitive understanding of what a thou is, a 10 thou is, and a 50 thou is that I haven't yet been able to get with metric. Trying to intuitively know what 0.2 millimeters is takes a lot more bandwidth. But then, as soon as we get past an inch, so that's anything bigger than this, all of a sudden, metric starts to make just that little bit more sense. As soon as we get to 300 millimeters, or a foot, the next 3 feet is easiest for me to understand in inches before we get to a meter, at which point all further distances should be calculated in meters until such point as we reach a mile, at which point we're back to imperial and there is no going back to metric. So the answer is, it always starts and ends with imperial. Do with that information what you will. Here is the tool that we've made. So now with the tool made, I can take the bulk of the material away with a regular end mill, and then we find out, does the tool that we made even work? And we take away those final little angles we need for the dovetail. Yay! It works perfectly! Now we've got that female portion of the dovetail cut in the anvil, it is time for us to make the actual die. Since the original piece is now far too small, I went ahead and cut this bit of mild steel. I got some rough measurements. So the first thing I got to do is square it up, make the outer dimensions perfect square, neat and fabulous. Then we trim off any excess fat of the dovetail, making sure to think about leaving enough space for the keys. The final dovetail on our die needs to look off-center, because when you're dovetailing dies, either the die needs to be off-center to the anvil of the power hammer, or the dovetail needs to be off-center to the die. See, on this one, for example, the die is off-center to the ram. That actually looks really bad. Right, let's square it up. Oh, there it is. Oh, and it's already been cleaned up for us. Look at that. Folks, I've made a bottom die. All that's left is to make the key. Just a little bit more coloring to do, another component down. Well, technically 2 components, or we could say 3.
You trying to include the key in that?
I'm trying to include the key as a component. Folks, that is the anvil block done. Oh, no, Jamie.
What?
It needs a little bit more.
What do you mean?
Look at that. You see this? It's all ugly and stuff. I need to do a little bit of grinding to it. 10 minutes of grinding, then I'll be done.
Billy.
All right, folks, that is the anvil and bottom die. Oh yeah, we're getting there.
Wait, are you telling me that there's a man in this box?
Chuck?
He must be a minuscule little man.
Chuck Norris is actually just quite flexible. That's right.
Wait, it's Chuck Norris? It's not just a regular Chuck, it's Chuck Norris.
Oh yeah, it's him.
Bloody hell, that must have been
The reason
expensive.
it's important is he's got very big biceps, so he can hold things very tight. All right. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Well, thank you very much, girl. Good girl. Whoa. Are you kidding? I keep putting it in my pocket. Right, so here's that 4-jaw chuck, and it has arrived. Now, you can see that this old girl...
Can't see anything, actually.
Oh, sorry, we have a dog in the way. You see that this old girl has had some better days. Got some weld on the jaws right there. It's definitely been beat to crap, hammered on and pried, oh yuck, and left in the weather a little bit too long. It's got a lot of rust on it. So before I go and put this in the lathe and risk letting the rust on this dent and mess up the spindle on the lathe and the fittings on the lathe, we're gonna try and clean this up, make it a little bit spick and span, and that's the price you pay when you buy a budget 4-jaw chuck. How much was a new 4-jaw chuck, Jamie?
About 70 grand.
Yes, it was about the cost of a Bugatti Veyron. This one, however, was 250 quid. Thank you very much. That is just crusty as can be. I want to make sure there's nothing sticking up. The taper here for the spindle to get onto has a bunch of dents in it from where they put it on with chips stuck in there. I thought I treated tools badly, but by goodness, some people treat tools a hell of a lot worse. Right, I'm gonna go get this chuck off over here. No, there is a big possibility this chuck doesn't fit. The manual said we had about a 1/2 inch of clearance. This right here is a 16-inch chuck. You can see, if that's gonna fit, it's gonna be so tight. There, good. Oh yes. Oh, she's in. There is not a lot of room to spare. And as if the lathe couldn't get any scarier, we now have a bigger chuck on it with an extra drawer to pull me into it to my gory, gruesome demise. Let's hope that does not happen. So at last, as discussed in the last episode, part number 44, this bad mamma jamma, a gland that goes on the end of our valve chest, needs to be machined out of this funny little bit of brass. All right, let's get these jaws roughly to the middle. You let me know when you spot it, Jamie.
What, it's gonna be too big?
It's sod's law, isn't it? I was intending to clamp this bronze on all 4 sides. See if we can do it with spacers. That's all I've got for you. chuffed about that little brass piece. It's got a 1/4-32 thread, and that means that if we wanted to, that I can thread on some little model steam fittings if I so need. I'm pretty sure that is just an exhaust though, so I don't think I need to put anything there. This valve chest is entirely complete. Our lower die and anvil section is entirely complete, which means that the next time I'm in the workshop, I get to make the ram at last. Jamie, 4-jaw chuck's gonna be too big for the ram as well. This isn't gonna fit in.
Well, we'll figure that problem out in 2024.
Yes, we will. See you next year.